Greetings YouTube. Today we're looking at a Les George CTS-XHP. Let me get that straight. It doesn't roll off the tongue. So a bit of a story about this knife. I found this knife at a pawn shop and it was looking just like this on the display case. And I asked to look at it. And I picked it up and the first thing I noticed that it had a nice heft to it, had a nice overall finish, and I could see no markings on it. So I'm thinking Chinese knockoff of something else. Just a well-executed one, and I own quite a few well-executed Chinese knockoffs. So I was not surprised by that in the least. So I closed it up, gave it a flick, nice action. I said, okay, I'll pick it up. They wanted 15 bucks for it. So I was happy with my purchase. I bought this and a Blu-ray, spent 20 bucks, golden. So I went outside. When I got outside, I looked at it again, and on this scale here, the one without the liner lock, if you look in the inside, you probably can't see that clearly. It's difficult to see because it's just engraved with a handheld engraving tool. And it says George CTS-XHP. So I'm like, okay, was George the guy who owned this? That's kind of a weird place to put your name. If you're going to do that, you put it on the spine or someplace else. But I'm like, all right. So I went home and I did a little Googling. And Les George is a knife maker. Still extant, still making stuff. I follow him on Instagram now. And this is a handmade knife made out of titanium, and it's worth about $500. And I was floored because I don't own any knives that are even close to that price range. The most expensive knife beyond this one, the closest I come is like 160, I think. And that's a zero tolerance. Yeah, I think it was 160, 170 bucks. So that's a big price difference between that and this. And this is such a well-made knife, and it is just a joy to hold and work. And I was floored that I found it at a pawn shop for 15 bucks because obviously they didn't know what they had. And the guy that sold it didn't know what he had because he couldn't have gotten that much for it. Maybe didn't know it was titanium. Maybe didn't understand that, maybe, who knows, but their loss is most definitely my gain. So let's take a look at the knife. We'll close it up. Start out like I would with most knife reviews. You take a look at it. So we have a liner lock, or frame lock construction. Nice broad pocket clip, held in place with 3 screws. Single position. For your handmade knife maker, you can make the decisions you want to. This is a hole big enough for a full-size piece of paracord, and it is inside the spacer here in the back, so you're not going to have to worry about that being exposed to the knife blade in the least. The pivot here is flat on one side, but it does sit slightly proud, because again, that's the design choice of the guy who made it. And then it comes over here, and this is a large Torx. It's like a T20. I've never seen a Torx that big on a knife before, and I'm like, well, again, not my decision, but it works very well. It deploys nicely, so I'm not going to complain. It has dual thumb studs, which have a nice little relief marks on there. I don't know if you can see that too well. They are exactly parallel to the scales. And interestingly, these use an actual fasteners. Most I have seen over the years have been Chicago bolt styles, so they just turn into each other like that. But this is actually 2 separate pieces, and this passes through and goes into the other one. Very well constructed thumb studs. Obviously, you're also going to notice that there is jimping here. It's wide, and it's well chamfered, very comfortable, and there is jimping here. Again, wide, well chamfered, very comfortable. You're not going to be surprised that the fit and finish on this is excellent because it is a handmade knife. You'll also notice this very nice big relief here, so that your finger very naturally just goes right in there, and it pops that blade open without any difficulty. And then we have that absolutely beautiful profile. And I am so happy to say a flat grind. And the swedge as well is flat grind. I recently had a knife which is a swedge which had a hollow grind. The blade did too, but I don't know if I've ever seen one. This is what I'm much more used to. And of course, all the grind lines are beautifully matched. And everything is just silky smooth. It has that wonderful satin finish on there that is just so nice. And this was carried. I cleaned off some of it. I didn't do a deep cleaning on this, but the person did carry it and they did use it, but it's in remarkably good shape. There's no damage to this. They didn't really seem to drop it at all. The edge is not chipped. The edge up here, whatever they did seem to do a lot of cutting up here, because here is just wonderfully still sharp. Up here needs a little bit of love, but not much. Again, it's the person really took care of this knife. I have a great deal of respect for anybody that takes care of knives. I'm just so happy. This has been sitting on my desk, and I've been playing with it like every day, and it is so attractive. It feels so good in the hand. You can just feel the quality and the effort and skill that went into this knife. I can't explain it. I don't own any other handmade folding knives. I have some quality commercial knives like a Zero Tolerance and a Daryl Ralph Dominator, both of which are incredibly good quality folding knives, but they're commercials, and this isn't. And you can tell the difference. And somebody that's like, really into cars would probably say that you'll be able to tell the difference between X car and this car just because of the way it feels or drives or what have you. And you will feel the difference and be able to tell the difference between a handmade knife and a good quality commercial knife just by picking it up. I am so glad I was smart enough to look at this knife and pick it up for 15 bucks. And funnily enough, I posted this on my Instagram because I'm like, this is an awesome find. And I talk about deals on both my YouTube channel and on my Instagram. And I tagged Les George because I wasn't sure if he was still alive. I hadn't done that much research. I looked into the knife itself, not the maker. And he himself replied to that and said he would have picked it up for the same price. So that made me smile. And I now follow him on Instagram. So I'm very happy I own this. I am going to use it and treasure it for the rest of my life, because I may very well never own another knife that's this well made or this expensive. Just very happy I own it, and the quality is unbelievable and the design is excellent, and I just couldn't be happier.